Hi, everyone. Happy New Year's Eve 2021. So, I'm here to tell you the story that I promised from the last video when I was telling you about my youngest son's Oxycontin addiction and that whole story. Well, there's almost a bigger story. I guess it's not bigger, but it felt bigger. Um, with my oldest son, and this happened 25 years ago when he was mid to late teenager. And he met this girl, and unbeknownst to me, of course, or him actually at the time, she was a meth addict. And of course, it didn't take long for her to convince him to try it because, that goes with new boyfriends and girlfriends and all that. So he tried it, and he told me later that he didn't really like it all that much, but, he has this new girlfriend, and that's what she wants, and he couldn't afford it. So guess what he started doing? He started manufacturing methamphetamine, which I had no idea about, zero clue, except I did know that his whole attitude, his whole, demeanor changed, and he went from being, like an average size guy to this skin and bones about this big. But I didn't know. I was working full time. I'm a single mom with two teenage boys. I was going to school full time, running a household, and they were, my boys were still going to school. Well, Matt wasn't. He had already graduated, and my youngest son had graduated too, and they were both working. So, we're living in, we're just doing our thing, and I thought everything was okay. Well, one night, it was a Friday night, January 31st of 2003. And I'm driving home from work on a Friday night, and I'm all excited. I'm going to have dinner with one of my good friends. And I'm driving home, and there's two cops sitting on each side of the road on a side street. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I'm driving, and I drive past them, and they pull in right behind me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's even weirder. But, I just kept going. And we got a couple of blocks, and they turned their lights on. And I'm like, okay. So I pull over. This is small town Iowa, and we all know each other by name. So I roll my window down, and I'm like, what's going on, Clayton? And he says, Robin, do you have anything in your car that I need to know about? Weapons, drugs, whatever. And I said, I have my school books, And he was like, nothing else? I'm like, no. And he says, okay, can you step out of the car? So I get out of the car, and up walks this cocky detective from the drug task force. I know him. He knows me. And he says, Robin, we're going to be questioning you on conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamine. And I laughed at him, and I said, well, I think you have the wrong person. And he says, well, we don't think that we do. And I'm like, well, you do. He says, well, we're going to have to take, your car to the station. Do you want us to drive it? It's a nice black convertible. I was like, no, I don't want you to tow it. Of course I want you to drive it. So, we go down to the police station, and I get strip searched by a woman I've known for, 20 years. And I'm like, are you having fun? And no, it was a horrible experience. And then they throw me in a jail cell and don't tell me anything else. That's all I know, is that I am being questioned about conspiracy for manufacturing methamphetamine. So, in this jail cell, there's a mattress this thick, There's no pillow, there's no blanket. It's freezing cold. It's January 31st in Iowa. It's freezing. And nobody's talking to me. Nobody's telling me anything. Nothing. And I don't know what's going on. All I know is just that. And I decide that I'm going to be calm and reasonable and logical and smart about this, not stupid. So I kept my mouth shut for a while. And I'm just sitting there, thinking about, what's going on. But finally at 2 a.m., when they still, hadn't said anything to me, I decided that I'm going to start a ruckus. And so I start yelling at the top of my lungs. I get a phone call. Either you have to arrest me or you have to let me out. You can't just put me in here, which I found out later they actually can. But, okay, if you're going to keep me in here, I need a phone call. So finally, I get somebody to let me out to make my phone call. So I called my mom, and I find out because it's all over the radio. Remember, this is small town Iowa. It's all a Twitter. And so I guess they had evacuated my entire block, my city block. And the hazmat team is there, tearing the place apart, to find whatever they're looking for, which I'm assuming is meth. I literally knew the word, but I'd never seen it before. I didn't know much about it. I'm going to school full time. I'm working full time. Anyway, so my mom is like, and Matt, my son, literally left his post at his job, which was at a gas station, when he found out that this was all going on, that his mom, somebody told him, your mom got arrested, they're evacuating your entire block, and he just jumps over the counter and takes off and disappears. So I, find all this out, and I said, well, Mom, you got to do whatever you can to get me out of here. I'm totally innocent. I don't even know anything about what's going on. Nothing. So we hang up. I go back into the cell. The next day, they drive me down to the county seat. I go before the judge, and they put a $75,000 bond on me. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm not going to make my family come up with $7,500, because I know I'm innocent, and I know that I'm going to get out of this. I already know it because I'm innocent, and I just knew that I was going to get out of this. And so this guy, this detective, he's trying to sweet talk me and talk to me and say, things are going to go so much better for you if you tell us now what you've been doing and, who's helping you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just looking at him like, dude, you have no idea who you're dealing with here. I am completely innocent. I'm going to get out of this, and you're going to lose your job because you haven't done your due diligence to find out exactly who I am. I mean, not anybody important, but I know who I am, that's what matters. So anyway, I know I'm going to make this way too long, so I got to move. So they handcuffed me. They put this, one of those brown handcuff belt things, and handcuff me, and they put me in the squad car, and they drive me up to this, prison in small town Iowa, and throw me in solitary confinement, because that's what they normally do when they bring somebody in. And the thing is that back up here, so I'm in the processing room, in this big, huge room. There's nobody else being processed in this room at the time, which is mind-boggling to me because, usually There's all kinds of people being processed. There's nobody else but me. And then there's the lady officer who's processing me. And I'm sitting there in, the chair waiting for her to do this. And she leaves her post and comes over and sits down next to me and she says, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "You tell me. What's happening? Why am I here? I am totally innocent of this." And she goes, "Yeah, I just can't see. You're just not our normal customer." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me tell you, this is what my son did to me. He's doing this. Then he finds out that I get arrested for it and he takes off." And you know what she said to me? She said, "You know what? I had the exact same thing happen to me. My son did the exact same thing to me. We got it all worked out. We'll get this worked out. Have courage. It's all going to be okay." And I'm like, "Okay, all right. Okay, good." So, they take me to this jail cell, solitary confinement, give me a pink outfit, and I'm in this room. You can't see out. You can't, there's not even a little, they have a little flap on it to give you your tray, but you can't see out. It's just a concrete and metal room about 10 by 10 with a metal bed with a mattress about this big and no pillow. Only you have a really one little thin blanket. And the lights stay on 24/7. They're on 24/7. And if the guard comes by and you have the blanket over your head so that you can sleep, you get in trouble. You don't get your 1 hour out of the cell. You get in trouble. You have to have your face exposed at all time, even though the light is blaring right at you. And I had a pencil about this big, a toothbrush this big, and a pad, and one tiny little thing of toothpaste, and a pad of paper. And that is it. And they throw me in here, and I am just wigging out because sorry, my phone beeped. I was wigging out because I knew I was innocent. I wasn't manufacturing methamphetamine. I hadn't even seen it before, but I was in despair. Now I'm worried about my kid. What's happening to my kid? It's horrible. He's addicted to meth and he's manufacturing it, and I didn't even know it. And I'll explain later how that's possible. But anyway, so I started going down this really dark depression in this. I was suicidal. I'm like, okay, I'm embarrassed. I have this great job at this college that I've worked out for 15 years. I'm respected in the community. I own my own home, and I'm thrown in jail. How did this happen? And so I had it figured out. I was going to take my glasses off and I was going to break my little thing off from my, this thing off. And it's a sharp edge. And I was going to slash my wrist. And then in blood, I was going to write on the wall, "I'm innocent," because I was just so indignant that this was happening. So they let me out to the next morning. No, they let me out that afternoon to see if I wanted a book off the library card, which I did. I got the biggest book that I could find because I didn't know how long I was going to be in here, and I had to have something to do. And it was the best book, and of course, you know what? At this moment, I can't remember what the name of it is. I can't believe that I forgot because I thought I would never forget because that book saved my life, literally. So I started reading, and I spent, all of my time trying to just escape from where I'm at. because they would bring my food, and it was the worst food ever. I mean, I wasn't going to eat this stuff. I would rather fast and starve, fast and pray, actually. And it was horrible, and I didn't eat it, and I just kind of went on a fast while I was in there. I finally got a hold of my mom on Saturday night, my first night there. They let me have a phone call, and told her, find a lawyer, get me out of here. And so, and didn't get to talk to anyone. Couldn't even see what time it was. Didn't know what time it was because you can't see out. And they leave the light on all the time. The only time I could kind of, get a sense of time was hearing what was going on out in the other room, or they would bring me my meal. So finally, on Monday, was horrible in there. It was horrible. On Monday, I finally, when I talked to my mom, she says, you're going to get out today on your own recognizance because you've never been in trouble with the law. You have a full-time job. You go to work every day. You're not late on your payments. Everything is good. Whatever it is that they have to use for criteria to let you out on your own recognizance, I passed. So two of my friends, of course, it was a blizzard. Two of my best friends came to this place and got me home. And I walk into my house, and 30 seconds later, my son walks in. And I didn't know whether to hit him or to hug him. So I did both. I totally punched him, what did you do? And then I'm hugging him because he looked terrible. He was a skeleton. Like he had just, over the whole weekend from Friday night until Monday afternoon, he had just been in a meth haze because he didn't want to think about what he had done to me. He knew that he had done this to me. That, he takes off and makes his mom go to jail for him. So he was really not in any kind of a state to talk, reasonably. He was exhausted. He hadn't eaten. He smelled. And why he came home right at the same time I got home, it's just a God thing. And I said, Matt, I love you more than anything else in this entire world. But you're going to go downstairs and you're going to take a shower. And you need to get some clothes on. And you need to be prepared. Because you know what I'm going to do while you're in the shower? I'm going to call this asshole detective that I don't want to speak to. And I'm going to tell him to come and get you. I'm going to save you. And this is the only way to save you because I can't do this. You have to pay the consequences of this. So he goes downstairs, takes a shower. I call this detective and said, my son is home. Please come and get him. And so he did. And he took him to jail. And they put him in jail. And the judge let him out on his own recognizance because he passed whatever criteria needed to be passed. But he was on probation. And he couldn't stay off of it. And so, he had a dirty piss test. And so they put him in jail. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to him. He was actually in jail for about a year. He was able to get sober. And I supported him. I went to see him every time that I could, It wasn't every day, but at least once a week, because I had to drive pretty far to go and see him. And I wrote a letter to our Attorney General and sent him a letter and sent him pictures showing him how it was possible with the house layout that my son could have had the ingredients for this process in my four-stall car garage. I had my own stall, and he had 3 stalls with a band in it. And then it was huge. It was bigger than my house practically. And showed him the layout of the house and how everything could have, with me working full-time and going to school full-time and him working, and how it all happened. And the Attorney General for the state came to my house with my lawyer and looked it all over, and all of my charges were dropped, and I was completely exonerated from it all. So I made a complaint, of course, to the powers that be and the detective who hadn't done his due diligence and just assumed that I was the kingpin of this operation, which is what was said in the newspaper in small town Iowa, that I was the kingpin of this operation. He got demoted. Yay. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Thank you, God. Anyway, it all worked out great because my son was in jail. He got sober. He's still sober, since 2005. So he's been sober a long time. And, I've been exonerated and all of those things and lived a really good life. The great thing is, not the great thing, the sad thing is that in small town Iowa, you are guilty until proven innocent. And it was all over, the newspaper couldn't, write it up fast enough and smeared my name. And the radio station, it was on like every 30 seconds, about what happened. And of course, I'm the kingpin of this operation. And I lost my job because of the word meth. This is all before I got exonerated. There was a process here. But all these things happen. I'm like totally smeared in small town Iowa. People that I've known for years won't even look me in the eye at the grocery store. I mean, it was devastating. It was devastating to be found guilty before proven innocent. Anyway, after I get exonerated, I go to the newspaper, to the editor, and I say, I want a retraction. I want now the story told that, this is what happened. Robin is exonerated. We were wrong. So sorry. I went to the radio station and asked them to retract. And both places refused. And you know why? It's not news. It's not news. Well, guess what? You really damaged my life by, just assuming that I was guilty. Anyway, that's not what the story is about. The story is actually about that, both of my sons and me were able to overcome the addictions that had overtaken our lives. My alcohol, addiction, now 5.5 years clean. My youngest son, OxyContin addiction, he's now over 10 years clean. And my other son's meth addiction, and and that's, like 25 years clean from meth. No, 15, sorry. Anyway, it can be done. But moms, I'm talking directly to you right now. If you have, sons or daughters who have an addiction and you're enabling them by not being tough, by not doing what it takes to save them. At this time, you are not their friend. You are not their friend. You're their parent. And you need to say, this is what I'm going to do to save you. And call the cops, make them pay the consequences. That's what's wrong in the world right now, is parents aren't making their kids pay the consequences of their actions. And we got a bunch of wimp-ass kids out there now. And this is our future. So, I am here right now to again encourage you and say, your addiction isn't any worse than the next guy's. And there's people out there who can help you. There's resources. It's New Year's Eve. Are you planning on getting drunk? Are you planning on feeling like shit tomorrow? All weekend? Maybe you're already drunk. Are you planning on drinking and driving? This is really the time that you need to make those decisions. And it really is. It's nothing but a decision up here. This is where it is right here. And, I just want you to experience what it's like to be free of that ball and chain. It's really an amazing feeling. And, prayer works. I pray every single day for all of you. I pray for all of us. God have mercy on us. We're going into some pretty weird and crazy times. And it's going to get kind of scary. So I encourage you to get your spiritual life back on track, or on track. Do whatever you need to do to have some strength inside of you to do those tough things that need to be done. So anyway, let's try and do 2022 better. It's the right time to start something new, to give it up, let it go and be free. So Happy New Year. I love all of you, and I'll check in with you again. Bye.